Hi folks, I have been an ebook reader for a long time, since about 2007ish I think, and that's when the first Kindle came out, and I guess that's when the e-ink technology was first released. But I did not have a Kindle back then. I had this. I don't use it anymore. It looks like a modern mobile phone, I guess, smartphone, but it's considerably thicker. This is the Dell Axim Pocket PC, and it had an operating system on it called Windows Mobile that behaved very much like the regular Microsoft Windows with there was a start button down here and everything, if you can believe that, on such a little screen. But it had a program called Microsoft Reader was it called, and it could take an ebook format called lit. The files had .lit after them, and I acquired quite a number of ebooks that way, not through buying them, I have to say. You just kind of search for them online and you can find these things pretty easily. The legality of that, I know, is questionable. But anyway, I read some ebooks on it, and I realized that doing it this way rather than reading a physical book had turned me into a voracious reader, because I could have this on me all the time. I would go for a cycle and it would be either in my pocket or in my backpack, and you don't have to worry really about it getting messed up or anything. You know the way if you have a book, you kind of care about, well, I do anyway, a physical book, you care about keeping it pristine, not even getting the spine bent, and not wanting to get the pages grubby because you spent money on it. Isn't it? And this is one of the reasons why I like ebook reading over physical books, because if you ever loan your book to a friend, fair enough if you know that friend treats books well, but sometimes you loan a book to a friend and you get it back and it's in pretty nasty condition, and you go, what the hell did you do? And the friend is like, what? Because they don't realize that books are actually valuable things in that way, aesthetically pleasing things that you want to keep aesthetically pleasing. Some people are just like that. So ebooks kind of takes away the worry of loaning books out, because you can't loan them, or if you are loaning them, it's kind of like, okay, I'll email that to you as an attachment. Not that I've ever done that. I mean, so few people are into reading ebooks, so few people in my experience in real life. So yeah, this thing got me reading furiously because it was always with me and it was just so convenient. And I don't know, there was something, the small screen and everything. It was a typical LED display, so I'm getting like light hitting me all the time, but it seemed comfortable enough, and you just keep hitting down, 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 and every 15 seconds you're turning the page because there are so few words on a page. But it just worked somehow. It just the books just flowed into me and I kept going and going. I did buy a Kindle, not initially. They were high priced and the technology was in its early stages. Back then, you remember the Kindle that had the big keyboard attached? Some years later I did get one. I can't remember what specific model it was called, but it didn't yet have the backlight. It just had the standard e-ink display. But it was definitely very pleasing to look at. I have bought a second Kindle since then. It's one of the earlier models of the Paperwhite. The newer Paperwhite ones don't have the bezel in here, whereas this one you can sort of see it's bezeled somewhat. So you're looking at the standard e-ink display without the light on, which is actually dimmer. It's more grey, less white than the one that didn't feature the backlight. The one that didn't feature the backlight was pure white, but of course you can't read it in the dark. So this one, actually, you turn it on and the light comes on as well, and it shows your little book collection. You can see some of the titles that I'm reading at the moment. We've got a little Alan Watts going on in there. Currently reading Lord of the Flies. The light is adjustable and it's always on. You know, you always have the light on, even in the daylight. If I were to go outside in the daylight conditions, I can turn the light down somewhat. There's your little slider for the light. There's it off, and there's it all the way up to fully bright. You know, You wouldn't need it like that. So I could theoretically in these lighting conditions read it like that. That's the light off, but it's just a little grey. So typically you would have it on, maybe 2/3 of the way up, like that. Works pretty good. So yeah, just the convenience factor. That's why I like ebooks. I have this with me all the time, everywhere I go. I love reading at night in bed with the light out and just in the glow of this. And again, you know, it's rubberized back and everything. And typically you'll buy a new Kindle at some point, so you don't even really have to care too much about keeping it in brilliant order. You can see I haven't even bothered buying a case for it. It's been dropped several times. It seems to be very robust. It has continued to work, and I've had this, must be 7 or 8 years now, maybe not quite that, something like that. Yeah, so Kindle. So I have a friend who can't reconcile himself to ebook reading at all. He just does not like the experience. He is much more attached to the actual experience of reading a physical book. And I mean, I have physical books myself. Most of them were purchased prior to me reading ebooks. Not always. Sometimes I still will invest in a physical one if it's something very particular and it's a special edition or something like that. Speaking of special editions, here is one that I got. This is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Look at that. Beautiful. I acquired this for next to nothing, purely by accident. I was in a website that was like a British swapping library for people who read. So the idea is you just put your book collection on and you browse other people's book collection and you try to find someone to swap with who wants something you have, and they'll send you one book for one book kind of thing. So I requested Brave New World from someone's library, and I was expecting to get some tatty old paperback, and they picked a book that they wanted from my library, and we sent them to each other. This arrived pristine, unread, seemingly leather bound, an absolutely beautiful edition of, look at that, an absolutely pristine and beautiful edition of Brave New World. And this is another thing, it almost seems a shame to read it because it's so beautiful. It's like, oh, I don't want to damage it in any way. I don't even want to get any sort of marks from my fingers on the edges of the book, you know. I mean, I have Brave New World on the Kindle anyway. It's out of copyright. No, it's not out of copyright, but it's public domain now because the author has been dead for more than 70 years. So it's 50 years in the US, 70 in the UK. An author's works become public domain. So I've got it anyway. I would never have sought this out, but I know some people love special editions. I watch Michael K. Vaughan's videos, and he has a ton of these special editions. Some of them look like really expensive folio editions, which cost a lot of money to buy. I would never seek those things out, beautiful as they are, but personally, I'm much more attached to the idea that a book, a story especially, a novel, is a thing that lives in here. It is not this. This is not really a book. This is a delivery mechanism for a book. The book happens in your imagination. And that's why I have no problem forgetting about this side of things, the aesthetically pleasing side of things, and opting almost entirely for ebook reading. But I gotta say, I understand, and I'm holding this book in particular, and some of you probably know what it is. Yeah, it's my book, I Universe, my philosophy book. When this was published, and the publisher sent me a pack of books, and it's not self-published, it's the real deal, Skylight Press. When I got that through the mail by the publisher, it was a real experience to tangibly hold the book. So I'm kind of contradicting myself now, but only really in relation to me. I mean, I don't really care about getting the latest Stephen King book or whatever in a physical book form. That doesn't bother me at all. But it's my book, and it feels definitely much more tangible. Would I have had the same feeling if I was simply sent a little email attachment containing an EPUB or MOBI or PDF version of the book, and there you go, your book's published? doesn't quite have the same effect, does it? So I guess there's still something to physical book reading, you know. And of course, you should buy this. You should buy the physical copy of this book. Forget about everything I'm saying. Just buy this book, right? You know you want to, but no. I will probably get this out in ebook at some point. It's available in audiobook, but I probably will get it out in ebook at some point. But the publisher hasn't released it as an ebook, just purely physical. But to me, it is a small, in terms of my reading, it's a very small sacrifice for me to disregard the physical experience of reading a beautiful book, or even, the smell of a book. Especially when a book gets older, the pages have a certain distinctive smell, which I guess is probably mold. I don't know, but there's a certain smell in a second-hand bookshop, and that's another thing. Yeah, hang on a second. Let me grab another book here, because this is one that was given to me by somebody. Zombie short stories, and I noticed the last time I picked it up, it's actually been signed by someone who gifted this to me. I loved making the films, and maybe you'll ask me to be in another couple of years. No pressure. Best wishes, Lucas. That was really nice, actually. That was given me by a member of my film club that I run, filmmaking club. But you can see now. Look at all those spots. For whatever reason, this particular book has gotten a little bit moldy in the first page. Not throughout the book, just that first page, and somewhat on the edges as well, if you could see that. So this is, you spend a lot of money buying books, physical books, and they acquire mold, I mean, it's not black mold like the kind of mold you might get on a wall if your house isn't ventilated, but it's still kind of nasty, But your digital ebook file will never have anything happen to it. It's just data. And if you buy them off Amazon or whatever, they're held in the cloud. People are worried about that, I guess. It's like you're buying a license for the book, but you're not really buying the book itself. So maybe you feel like you don't really own it. But I sort of got comfortable with the idea of buying digital media with the Steam platform for games on the PC. That has been so successful for such a long time. If you're a PC gamer, you would never dream of buying games in any other way except through the Steam platform. So these things, when they find their feet, they are successful. So I have a Steam library. I have a digital movies and television series library on Amazon that I play through the Fire TV stick. And now I have a growing ebook collection through the Amazon store. So yeah, I trust it. But I mean, even if you didn't, there are ways to actually get rid of the digital rights management software off your ebooks, so that you can actually just save the file on your hard drive and keep it, and it will still run on your Kindle, but it will run on any Kindle. You're not supposed to do that, but the important thing is you bought the book, money changed hands, authors were paid. It just ensures that you get to keep the book forever, and Amazon can never snatch it back off you if there was some kind of problem with rights or something like that, or they can never update the book. I heard a worrying thing today from a friend that the BBC are now going to start censoring parts of old comedy shows, comedy TV shows, because some of the humor was inappropriate, like getting rid of the N word or something like that. And I'm just thinking, okay, we know we shouldn't be swearing like that, but leave it alone. It's just a part of history. Just leave it alone. Stop going back and trying to revise history. So it is kind of worrying that if you don't actually tangibly have the thing, whether it is video or whether it is books or music or whatever, think of the song Money for Nothing. Think of the lyrics to that song. I heard a version of it where they stripped off a particular verse. I just don't think we should be tampering with things that are already there in place. And I don't like the fact that a company has the ability to tamper with these things. So you can circumvent the digital rights management, and you can, with the right software. It's a plugin for a piece of software called Calibre. Okay, Calibre is an ebook management piece of software that you can download on your PC, and so if that kind of thing worries you about buying ebooks, there's always a way around it. The Amazon Kindle uses a format, its own proprietary format. I forget what it's called, A or Z3 or something like that. That's probably wrong. But it's also compatible. They've made it compatible with an existing ebook format called Mobi. And the files will have .mobi at the end of it. I think it was originally called Mobi Pocket, was the name of that software. So there are a ton of ebooks already out there in the Mobi Pocket format. Most other e-readers have opted for the EPUB format, but it doesn't really matter because the format is interchangeable. If you download an EPUB from outside of Amazon, if you download an EPUB ebook, run it through Calibre, hit the convert button, and it'll spit out a Mobi file for you, which you can then just put onto your Kindle without any difficulty. This is another good thing, and what I was saying about copyright earlier, you could spend hundreds of pounds, for instance, acquiring every book by Aldous Huxley, say, but you could also just download a single file, which is the complete works of Aldous Huxley. You could download it legally for nothing, put it on your Kindle. It takes no space, costs no money. You've now got in your hands everything that Aldous Huxley ever wrote. You can't beat that. So let me take a look at, I've got a whole bunch of complete collections here that I've downloaded. I've got them on the screen here on my PC. So these are just the classic authors that interested me. There are many more. All of them are there. So I've got the collected works of Algernon Blackwood, Edgar Rice Burroughs, Aldous Huxley, Bram Stoker, Edgar Allan Poe, George Orwell, H.G. Wells, H.P. Lovecraft, Mark Twain, Mary Shelley, Robert E. Howard, Robert Louis Stevenson, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Thomas Paine, Charles Fort. I will probably download more, but it would probably take me the rest of my life to read. I probably wouldn't even be able to read everything that I've just read to you there. That's the complete works of all those authors. So if you're into classic reading, you should definitely have a Kindle. Is it really that important to have this experience when it's going to cost you so much money in comparison to costing you nothing, except the price of the Kindle, I guess? So now, naturally, of course, piracy is a thing. And it is possible fairly easily to find ebooks by more modern authors, including works published this year even. It's pretty easy to find these things and download them and read them without paying for them at all. And I'm not advocating that at all. There was a time when I just used my Kindle purely for reading Mobi files and I never bought anything, but I've now adjusted to actually using the Kindle store and buying books. Now, the book buying experience, if you just search for a typical Kindle book, it may be £5, it may be even £10, and that seems like a lot of money, and it is. And I very rarely, if ever, would buy a Kindle book at that sort of price. One was so ridiculous once that I saw a Stephen King book that was new. I can't remember which one it was. This was about a year or two ago. And the hardcover price of the book was £10. And the Kindle price was £12. I thought, okay, you're going to ask me to spend £2 more than a hardcover novel, probably a sizable hardcover novel. You're going to ask me to pay more for a little digital file. It required no manufacturing. It required no manufacturing, no shipping, no warehousing, no storing in a bookshop, no paying of the bookshop employees. All this is taken out. It's just a digital file. In fact, when I hit purchase in the Kindle store, and I didn't, but when I hit purchase in the Kindle store, there probably isn't even a human being involved in that transaction at all. It's just money changes hands, computers take over. and they handle the transaction, and the digital file is downloaded to my little personal Kindle cloud, and then from there I just pull it into my Kindle. £12, really? Okay, doesn't sound right, but here's the way you should actually be using your Kindle, and it's the way I've started using mine. Every month Amazon do deals on Kindle books, and there are typically several hundred, it might even be well over 1,000, I'm not sure, I haven't counted, books that are all mostly around £1 to buy. And I think if you're in the US, they might do a similar thing and it would be $1, I'm not sure, but I'm just going to describe how it works here in the UK. This sale is ongoing and it changes on the 1st of every month, and I'm very grateful to Criminali, a booktuber, who took me through the process. He has a video on this where he takes you through the process of how to find these sorts of bargains. It's actually not difficult. I will go to the Amazon site now and tell you what to click on if you're interested. So basically, let's start with Amazon. You won't see this, but it's easy. Start by clicking on Kindle books, and then down the left hand side click on all Kindle book deals, and they're all subdivided, but if you scroll right to the bottom there's see all results. Click that. Now I'm looking at the January 2022 results, and I have got 100 pages of books, and it looks like there is about possibly 15 books per page. So 15 times 100 pages, there's 1,500 books, most of which are £1 to buy. And it's a real pleasure at the start of every month to get a new list and to just spend half an hour casually going through them, looking for ones that I want to buy. And they will probably be my reading for that month. And this month, for January, I'll tell you what I bought. Let's take a look at my orders. Yeah, I started off by buying a book called 10% Happier, How I Tamed the Voice in My Head, Reduced Stress Without Losing My Edge, and Found Self-Help That Actually Works, a True Story. It's a bit of a mouthful of a title. 10% Happier by Dan Harris. I had read this book before. I must confess I read it in the naughty way, by not actually paying for it. So I'm actually making amends for that by buying it now. Sort of retroactively buying it now, because it is a book that I really enjoyed, and it even made the bibliography of suggested reading that it's at the back of my book. Dan Harris's 10% Happier. Basically it's a guy Dan Harris is a guy who's a newscaster, and he had a panic attack one day while casting the news, and it led him down a bit of a rabbit hole in studying and practicing meditation. So it's pretty interesting. Then I spotted 2 Alan Watts books that I had not read, The Way of Zen and The Wisdom of Insecurity. So I snapped those up, and I've read those earlier this month. Really well worth reading. I grabbed Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End, which I have made a review of in a previous video. I then got Survivors by Terry Nation, which I have also made a video of. And I decided to buy Rosemary's Baby, because I'm a fan of the movie, and the movie was based on the novel, and I wanted to read the novel. So it turned out to be a really good read. And finally, I bought Lord of the Flies, while the going was good. It was down to £1 to buy. And Lord of the Flies is what I'm currently reading. I will probably be finished that in a few days, right in time for there to be the next Kindle sale at the start of February. I'll be excited to see what books turn up then. So you can basically do all your reading, and you're only going to spend a few pounds a month, £5 or £6 a month probably, you know. The thing I have to avoid now is to whimsical sort of spending, because they're so cheap. The tendency is, oh, buy that, buy that, buy that, I'll read that sometime, buy that. And then you end up like Criminali and like Michael K. Vaughan, where you have a Kindle that's full of books, and maybe like, I don't know, 30%, 50% maybe of your Kindle is full of books you haven't read because you just don't have time to read them. I want to avoid that if I possibly can, so I am going to be careful in the books that I pick and try not to pick more books than I can possibly read in a month. So you can see I really like ebooks, and the only hindrance to it seems to be the love of the aesthetic of reading a physical book. And if you can just kind of get it into your head that the book exists here, really, it does not exist on paper. Paper is just the mechanism. If you're interested in trying ebooks, you don't even need to buy a Kindle. I'm guessing almost all of you have a mobile phone. Not a mobile phone like that. That is my mobile phone. It's funny that phones now look like this. And while I was using this back in 2007, everybody's phone looked like that. Now my phone looks like that, and I'm using this to read with. This, in my estimation, this is the greatest piece of portable technology that has been invented in I don't know how long. Not the smartphone. This, you know, a quality experience of your attention being given to a digital product. Not this garbage where it's like a slot machine and you're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling based on the whims of a company like Facebook or whatever, who have employed, you know, mechanisms that they use in casinos to try and keep your attention. That's another whole story, but you know, take back your attention and give it to things that you actually choose to give it to. You know, a quality reading experience. So a really good way to start using your phone is to just download the Kindle app. And although I don't have a phone to show you, I do have an iOS device. So if you've got an iPhone, you know, it's the same operating system. So there is an app, there is a Kindle app for mobile phones, whether they are Android or iOS. And let's see. There you can see part of my book collection, just like on the Kindle, right? And I can click on any of those books that I've bought and read them. So there's nothing stopping you right now downloading the free Kindle app on your phone and grabbing something. If you're interested in Alan Watts, and I know a lot of my regular audience may be interested in Alan Watts, well, 2 of his books, 2 really good ones, are going for the next couple of days only for £1. Who knows, there might be some more Alan Watts next month, there might not be. But there's nothing stopping you downloading that app, checking out the Kindle sale and seeing what interests you. It's only going to cost you £1. In fact, you may find some free books too. That's a thing on Kindle. But they typically tend to be self-published stuff where the author is so desperate they just want to give it away completely free. So do try to pick a book that's something that genuinely interests you, not rather than just because it's free. Try it out. See how you like the reading experience. So even though the e-ink technology is better than this technology, the LED screen, it still was decent. I still liked the ebook reading experience on this. So see what it's like on your phone, because if you're not into reading, you are really missing out on an exquisite experience of life that is just so much better than staring at a TV screen, and so much better especially than staring at a dumb social media app like YouTube on your phone, right? So ebooks, brilliant, long may they continue. Okay folks, gosh, this was a long one. Take care. The sky